This day in sports history. Well, hey there. It's This Day in Sports History, a member of the Sports History Network. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com to find a whole lot more podcasts and more info. This is Steve White, your friendly host, welcoming you to another edition of This Dish. Today I've got the story about a guy who surprisingly got ejected only once in his career despite a long history with the thing that he got thrown out for. I've also got another story about an ejection that was unprecedented and really should never have happened, plus a couple of other firsts, so stick around. This episode is brought to you by the Sterling Soap Company. Sterling Soap is 100% natural, and with a variety of bath soaps, shave soaps, beard balm, lotions, cologne, and many more personal care products in a large variety of scents, you're sure to find something that's perfect for you or that special someone in your life. Check them out at sterlingsoap.com. On this day in 1982, Gaylord Perry was ejected from a baseball game for throwing a spitball. Now, that doesn't seem so odd until you realize that this is the only time that Perry was ever thrown out for doctoring a baseball. Now, Perry never really hid the fact that he was a spitballer. Well, he did. He didn't walk out with a tub of Vaseline and start lubing up baseballs, but he was so esoteric about it, the way he did it, He always had a smile on his face when he told people that he didn't do anything illegal. When asked if he ever put a foreign substance on the ball, he would say, absolutely not. Vaseline is made right here in the USA. He threw his first one back in 1964, and the man wrote a book in 1974 called Me and the Spitter. And it's not like he retired any time before that or soon after. He was around for a lot longer, as, this story again happens in 1982. Rules were changed or added specifically because of Gaylord Perry. In 1973, for example, Rule 8.02A.3 was added that said a player could not expectorate on the ball, either hand or his glove. Now, he played 22 seasons for 8 different teams. He won 314 games and he earned 2 Cy Young Awards. And everybody in the league, everybody who was watching on television knew that Gaylord Perry threw a doctored baseball. And he was a friggin' magician at it. And that's why he only got caught once, I suppose, 20 years into his career. So at this point in his baseball journey, he was playing with the Seattle Mariners. The Boston Red Sox were in town, and Gaylord got the start that night. He worked into the 7th, doing the same routine prior to every pitch of using a variety of fingers on his pitching hand to wipe under the brim of his cap, behind his ear, the back of his head, sometimes in the V of his neck for a little dab of Vaseline or KY jelly or Brill cream. With 2 outs in the 7th, Perry delivered a pitch, but home plate umpire Dave Phillips saw something a little out of the ordinary, and he asked for the ball. Now, normally, Perry had ways of getting rid of the evidence, but he didn't quite get all of it in this situation. So, Phillips threw Perry out of the game for his first and only ejection of his career.
My judgment, it was definitely an illegal pitch. And not only did I know that it was a legal pitch, but everybody that's out there that has anything to do with baseball knows what it was. Gaylord Perry has a history of this situation. It does not dictate that we should look at him because he has a history of it, but I did warn him.
The thin veil that covered his cheating, though, did not prevent Perry from being voted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1991. So, when I was a kid, I loved to watch a good mascot work the crowd in a stadium. Heck, I still like it now. But on occasion, a mascot can kind of push the opposing team's buttons a little too much, like on this day in 1989, when Montreal Expos mascot Youppi drew the ire of Los Angeles manager Tommy Lasorda, and he was ejected from the game. Youppi, that is, not Lasorda. So the Dodgers were in Montreal on this night, and things weren't really going very well for them. LA was 8 games under 500, 13 games back in the win column. They were out of the pennant race for sure. And Tommy Lasorda was generally in a bad mood anyway, but he was especially so at this point. Add to that, Lasorda was not really a big fan of mascots, as most people tend to be. Just the year before, Lasorda attacked the Philly Fanatic after the Fanatic brought out a Lasorda-like ragdoll during a game. Tommy went after the Fanatic in that one. He took the effigy away from him, and then he hit him with it. Well, on this night, it was a long night at the ballpark, with the game scoreless heading into extra innings. As was typical when a game went longer than the scheduled 9, Expos mascot Youppi put on his PJs and his nightcap and a signal that he was ready to hit the hay. In the 11th inning, Youppi climbed up on top of the Dodgers dugout. It was a pretty good spot to be seen, and if he could somehow distract LA just a little bit, maybe that would be a good thing for the Expos. Well, he made a little bit too much noise for Lasorda's liking. Youppi intentionally fell down on the dugout, and he may have stomped a little bit too hard. Lasorda came out of the dugout, he stared up at the orange furry creature, and he started yelling at him to get off the dugout. Now, Youppi did not budge, instead lapping up the attention from the crowd while letting Lasorda fume a little bit more. Well, Lasorda then appealed to third base umpire Bob Davidson. At that point, Davidson gave Youppi a casual "get out of here" motion.
They want Youppi off the Dodger dugout. He's bugging the Dodger players, and Tom Lasorda is out. And third base umpire Bob Davidson is throwing Youppi out of the ball game. He wants him off the Dodger dugout. Tommy Lasorda has put up a complaint. This will draw the ire of the fans. And they want Buck Rogers out to get Youppi out of there. Buck is sitting down. Here comes Davidson running over, and Buck's going to make Davidson come over and say, "What do you?" Oh, no, they're calling somebody from security over.
They're going to call security and remove him from the ballpark.
Wow. We've seen it all now, huh? Youppi's been thrown out of the game, off the Dodgers dugout.
So for the first and only time in Major League history, at least as much as I could find, a mascot had been tossed from a game. Now, of course, in true mascot fashion, Youppi soaked up the comedic moment. He hopped off the dugout and he slow-walked a few steps up the aisle before being met by a security officer. Now, Youppi, well, the man inside the costume on this night, Claude Hubert, did not know if he actually had been just asked to get off the dugout or whether he truly had been ejected from the game. So his assistant went to check with the umpires between innings, and yes, they said Youppi had been ejected. Now the crowd started a Youppi chant, and they kept it going for the entire inning. That caused Davidson to rethink his decision, and in another umpiring first, decided to reverse his decision, allowing Youppi back into the stadium as long as he promised to not get back up on the Dodger dugout. Youppi put his PJs back on and he went back to work. Things didn't get any better for the Expos, though. The game went another 11 innings, with Rick Dempsey finally hitting a solo shot in the top half of the 22nd to win the game for the Dodgers 1-0. Youppi's performance on this night, though not appreciated by everybody, is one of the reasons that he, or it, wound up in the Mascot Hall of Fame. And Youppi is also one of 3 mascots on display at the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, along with the Philly Fanatic and the San Diego Chicken. On this day in 1936, 17-year-old Bob Feller made his Major League debut, and he used his blazing fastball to strike out 15 and win his first Major League game with a 4-1 win over the St. Louis Browns. Feller's 15 Ks was just one shy of the American League record at the time, and within 2 of the Major League record of 17 held by Dizzy Dean at that point. Feller would go on to play 18 years in the majors, missing 3 to serve in World War II. He led the league in strikeouts 7 times and finished with 266 wins. If he had not missed those 3 years to serve his country, he had more than a good chance of winning 300. And how about this baseball story from 1957? For the first time in the history of the Little League World Series, a team from outside the U.S. won it all. On this day, it was the Little League team from Monterrey, Mexico, featuring a 5-foot-tall, 88-pound fireballer named Angel Macias that blanked the U.S. team from La Mesa, California, 4-0. But that wasn't all. Machias struck out 11 of the 18 batters he faced, and the other 7 who actually managed to get the bat on the ball, well, those balls did not leave the infield, and he pitched a perfect game. The team from Monterrey was diminutive compared to their American counterparts, giving away about 35 pounds and 5 inches, but the lack of size did not matter with Machias throwing smoke. Just to get to this game in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, they had to travel a long, hard road. So they first began their trek with a 150-mile drive to McAllen, Texas, then on to Corpus Christi up to Fort Worth, and then to Louisville, Kentucky, winning and advancing at each one of those stops. The entire town of Monterrey followed their progress through the tournament by radio, and when the Mighty Mites won on this day, an all-night celebration ensued on the other side of the border. Time now for today's That's Got Nothing to Do with Sports fun fact. When Alexander the Great was just Alexander the Kid, a teacher of his, Leonidas, chastised the future king about using too much incense as an offering to a god. Many years later, after Alexander had transformed Macedonia into an empire, he was in the spice markets of Asia, and so he bought a lot of it, and he sent several hundred pounds of incense to Leonidas, with a note saying, "Stop being so stingy with your offerings." This has been an original Thrive Suite production.